The market, though, doesn't look too crazy exciting unless there's a big weather risk somewhere or things like that, which is always a risk. So grainland, so the barley market being segmented, well, the durum market is also segmented. There's varieties you should not grow in your situation, and there's ones you should grow, in my opinion. So if you're a dryland farmer and you've got sawfly risk, I would say grainland is going to give you some height, protect you from sawfly, and be at the top of your yield under drought stress. I find that one doesn't fall apart under extreme drought. So when we get those real bad years, I find grainland holds together the best out of the solid stems. Whereas stronghold, when we're extremely dry, I find the yield drops off harder when we're extremely dry. So that's why I would recommend for a solid stem durum, the grainland right now is my lead one. Any comments on the grainland and the new one there, Wyston? Do you know a little bit Wyston? Because I don't know a ton.
I also don't know a ton about Wyston. This year it's just a lot of seeing where the fit, like where will fit best. We have a lot of people in Saskatchewan growing it. Yeah, we're just kind of waiting to see what exactly will be the fit for it. I'm interested to hear how it works out for everybody. So.
Yeah, the Wyston is more of a demonstration here to see if we like it, see how it fits. I would say, so it's a hollow stem. So the Wyston's a hollow stem. I believe it has an I rating for fusarium, similar to the Schrader. But maybe it's got a little more yield versus. I wished I had it beside the Schrader in these plots, actually. I messed up on that. So, but yeah, they should be kind of comparable varieties in my mind. But will it gain some yield over the Schrader? That's the thought here. So 2026. So the Wyston is 2026. So yes. PGRs went on all this, yeah, manipulator. And manipulator works better, like amazing on durums, I find. And so, yeah, so all these had a PGR across all of them. Manipulator.
Greg.
Yeah.
The grainland is a solid stem?
Correct.
How about the stronghold?
Stronghold is solid stem as well. But under extreme drought, we've had customers telling us that the stronghold falls apart and you just don't get, you get worse yields when it's very dry. So if you're, 10 to 20.
You can start seeing white.
Okay. You're seeing that even on irrigation or?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, stronghold is definitely not drought resistant.
Yeah, so we've heard that from people, and so stronghold, it's an amazing variety on for higher yields on irrigation. You can push that variety in irrigation really well, but for dryland, it's got a solid stem. But I would say I would pick, on my farm, I would pick grainland, which we do. We got grainland on dryland for seed production, because I think it'll hold together better when you're in the sub 30 bushel category, which often is in this area.
The stronghold on irrigation right now, tabletop.
Yeah.
Like you can pour the water on there.
It's a great variety for irrigation. Yeah. Did you do a PGR?
Both Modus and manipulator, they're both standing.
Okay. So the comment was the stronghold standing well in irrigation. Yeah, it's kind of your industry standard for irrigation, I would say, right now. And then other areas, where you're not as extremely pressured by drought, yeah, you're fine. The Succeed VB. So this variety has hung around way longer than I thought it would on our farm, but we've had a lot of customers that really love the variety. Nice and early, we've seen the Succeed be a week earlier than Stronghold to maturity. So if you need to get the combine spread out a little bit on your farm, spread the risk for some weather, get a combine moving on a few fields first, then we found that some people like the Succeed. The varietal blend, it's a midge tolerant, so that's not really an issue here, but just standability, yield, comparable to Stronghold, I would suggest. But just ultra early. So that's kind of why we like that variety. Try and get ahead of some weather risk. So, Colin, anything to add on Succeed?
No, I think you've been growing it longer than I've been working for FP. So
Yeah, it's been around for a little while, but it still just keeps on rolling.
early, yeah.
Yeah, come talk about Schrader though. A little bit of lodging here on our irrigation Schrader. We did 2 PGRs because I hate lodged crops. So convinced Nathan and the team to put 2 PGRs down on it. On our farm this year, so we did 2 PGRs on our Surge triticale. It's a forage type. It needs a little help. The Schrader, we did 2 PGRs, and then the AB Dram malt barley, 2 PGRs. So those are the crops that got 2 PGRs on our farm this year.
Yeah, and I mean, this is, I don't think we've said under irrigation. Probably if you want standability, Stronghold's the one you're growing. But Schrader was the first durum that has an I rating to Fusarium. And the one thing I really like about Schrader is if you look in the Alberta Seed Guide, both the low and high yield categories, it's consistent. It's 110% a check. So even with some lodging and stuff, then it still seems to be very consistent in its yield. And that's, at the end of the day, at least you can count on when you get different varying conditions, whether you get dry or you get moisture. And if you get moisture, you've got some extra protection on the disease. So I really like the quality, and I really like that consistency in yield. It's also going to be, I think, the new check for all the durums, so you'll be able to see it consistently. And if that yield doesn't change over time, as far as both those categories, it's a very consistent in its yield pattern. So
we got a lot of customers that grew this on irrigation this year, and then a lot of dryland customers. But it's not solid stem; it's a hollow stem. So if you have sawflies on dryland, watch out. Like, this one's not solid stem, so that's a concern. So Esri, I've got some complaints about this variety. It's slow, eh? So the Vanta, super short, but we found it really late. Like, we had a customer asking, like, hey, is there something wrong here? It's not heading out. And no, it was just later than all the other varieties in these plots. So super short, super dark awns. Actually, that's something we don't see here. The Grainland has a dark awn to it. The Stronghold can have kind of a mixed awn, like you can have some dark some years based on environment and some years not as much. And then the Vanta, it's super black awns. So any other comments on Vanta here? Like, it's got a fit, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, so we're kind of calling it our ugly duckling right now, but you kind of just have to hold out on it and see what it can do. But I know in Saskatchewan, we had some growers getting sketchy phone calls from Italians wanting to export it straight to Italy because it's got a really great yellow color for pasta. So I don't know. We'll wait and see how it looks this year and hopefully get caught up.
That's true. Varieties can finish faster or slower from this point onwards. So we've seen that. So it can kind of catch up, but I would say this is going to be the longest season durum you can grow, in my opinion. And the earliest is probably 6 seeds. So as we go north, like, we've had some customers up in the Drumheller area, and we recommend like an earlier variety because they have a little shorter season. So that's where I would throw 6 seed in there. Stronghold. So a lot of this variety, it just seems to pump out the yield and stand well in irrigation. Anything else you want to say about Stronghold? But I would just say if you're in a dry zone like this area, I like Grainland better for the solid stem features of it. So that'd be my pick. Any questions on durums from the crowd before we move along to other things? Okay. I guess one comment on seeding rates. These were all 40 plants per square foot. So if you're less than that, you might see less lodging in your own fields. So keep that in mind. We're on the high end for plant populations, and PGRs like manipulator are really effective on durums typically. So you're going to see a lot of shortening out of a manipulator pass in a durum relative to some other crops, I find. So, okay, let's move ahead to the spring wheats.